We work on tobacco investigations at University of Bath. One that stood out to me, my kind of beat, was looking at how tobacco companies responded to the COVID pandemic, especially in the early stages when there were kind of lockdowns happening and bans. So it was quite interesting monitoring how different countries were responding and how tobacco companies were taking that as an opportunity for promotion.
One of the most interesting investigations that we've worked on as God for Africa is monitoring misinformation, disinformation and hate speech, and how it's being used differently to propagate political narratives in the Kenyan context. And this was quite a very interesting project, let me say, and investigations. And one of the main kind of insights that we had was to see the networks that are being used differently to propagate hate speech and disinformation by different political factions.
We worked with Oxpecker's Investigative Environmental Journalism to produce the Wild Eye East Africa map, and this is tracking wildlife crime in 4 countries in East Africa. So looking at the seizures, the arrests, the court cases and the convictions of wildlife crime. So not only looking at where the items were seized, but actually what happens in the courts. Once these people are arrested, are they actually prosecuted? What kinds of sentences are being given out for wildlife crime?
We're actually doing an investigation into Russian influence across 21 African countries. And by Russian influence, what I mean is, the use of disinformation and influence propaganda narratives to try and, shape the ideas or shape the discourse within a particular country. So it's been quite an exciting project because that project has enabled us to see how global politics work at large, but also to just figure out within the continent how can people actually be convinced just through social media or even through the media to act on a particular process or to act on a particular thing within different contexts in Africa. So I think that has been really, really exciting to me.
Just about the middle of the year, we did an investigation around public procurement for a particular state. The beauty of that investigation was not just exposing irregularities with procurement data and procurement spending, because that's kind of been happening. What was beautiful was how the story was able to connect to beneficial ownership and kind of connect procurement data to beneficial ownership and expose even more how government officials kind of manipulate public funds to serve their own purposes and to serve the purposes of their cronies. And I think that was really important because there's one side working on procurement irregularities and procurement corruption, and there's this whole other block working around beneficial ownership and open ownership. And it felt like this makes sense. If we can connect procurement data to beneficial ownership data, we probably will be able to expose more corruption.